Okay, welcome back to Long Distance Learning. Today we're going to be focusing on an introduction to how GPS works. Whether or not you're using your cell phone, just simply making a phone call, or if you're driving in an automobile, we all are using GPS at this point. Why GPS? What is GPS? How does GPS work? These are just a few of the questions we're going to answer in this quick video lecture. Many features have addresses and landmarks that are associated with a particular destination, but sometimes we might be doing an activity that doesn't have an address, and how do we find out where we're at? Well, today we use GPS. There's many features that we can use in order to find out exactly where we're at, even if we don't have street names. Before GPS, navigation was also critical, and historically we used a sextant, which actually used the stars, or perhaps we used radio waves. The problem with these is sometimes you can't see the stars, and number two, sometimes you're far away from land. Nowadays we use GPS from everything from camping to the military. GPS is not a single unit. It's a global positioning system. You actually carry it around with your cell phone. How does it work? Simply, if your telephone is being picked up by a satellite, we know that that GPS receiver is within range of that particular satellite. The receiver knows exactly when the signal leaves the satellite. There's a timestamp on it, and when the signal arrives at the receiver. The receiver is therefore able to calculate its distance from the satellite. Distance equals time times velocity. Distance equals time times the velocity of light. The receiver knows exact position due to this mathematical calculation. Therefore, the receiver is able to determine its exact distance from the satellite, and hence it knows exactly where your cell phone is. There are 5 control stations to monitor satellites. Control stations enable information on Earth to be transmitted to the satellites, updates and fine-tuning, and control stations continually track the satellites and update the positions of each satellite. Without control stations, the accuracy of the system would degrade in a matter of only days. There are 24 satellites with 3 spares. The Department of Defense knows exact locations on each satellite at any given moment. These satellites have very accurate clocks on board, and of course they send continuous radio signals to the ground. The radio signals contain several pieces of information, including the satellite ID, timestamp, and the position. There are 3 major components within the system: the satellites themselves, the ground control stations, and the GPS receiver, or your cell phone in your pocket. Okay, so how does GPS work? Let's take a look at it. If the GPS receiver only obtains signals from 2 satellites, then it knows that it's located somewhere within the 2 spheres where they intersect. Okay, so likewise, if you have 3 signals or 3 satellites, now you can triangulate an even more precise location. Of course, if you have 24 satellites, you're getting very, very precise. There's 2 types of GPS signals. There's P code, which is precise code used by the military. There's also C code, which is civilian code that's used by you and I. For national security reasons, the military sometimes degrades that C code or civilian code signal. As a result, it can make some of your measurements off by about 3 meters. Now, as other tricks of the trade, you want to make sure that your receiver gets a fix on a more distributed type of satellite system. You don't want all the satellites all grouped together in order to get better waypoints. WAAS is the Wide Area Augmentation System. This is being developed for things like aircraft so that they can use GPS. And what else can you do? You can collect and store waypoints, whether or not perhaps you're an environmental scientist and you're taking all kinds of data out in the woods. You can also use this in businesses. Take GPS and store waypoints and then collect data for your business. A lot of different ways to use GPS. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you soon.